Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
Good evening, Maverick family. I'm Rick Walker. Welcome back to the Maverick News channel. Welcome new viewers as well, wherever you may be. Great to have everyone here tonight. So much to talk about, so many news stories to share, so much going on in the world. Joe Biden giving a very strange speech, very strange indeed, speaking at addressing safety and then making reference to the Queen. That has resulted in more questions, renewed questions about his mental capacity, his mental health. And then he was speaking at this today as well at a news conference about that bridge collapse in Philadelphia. And Senator Fetterman introduced him. And Fetterman didn't fare much better, honestly. There's another wordsmith who excels at butchering the English language. We'll show you what he had to say. The field for the Republican nomination for president, for the presidential candidate, continues to grow. We'll talk to you or talk with you tonight about or talk about the latest presidential hopeful to enter the race against Donald Trump, and the field is widening. Is Tucker Carlson really a dictator? Is Joe Biden a dictator? That was a wannabe dictator. We'll talk a little bit about that again tonight too, because it ties into everything that we just teed up there with Biden speaking and bumbling his way through his address on safety, and then his strange visit to deal with the I-95 bridge issue. So yeah, we'll touch on all that. Cyber attacks, the situation in Ukraine, the war escalating there, even more advanced weapons now being used. And because of the sophistication of the weapons, that in itself is an escalation, which is something we should all be concerned about. And then this week as well, we'll come back and look again just briefly at the global cyber attack that has been reported, and see if that ties in any way to the difficulties that the Toronto Dominion Bank in Canada has been having with processing automatic online payroll for people. That was a big problem this week, and a lot of people very concerned that it may be spreading to other banks, but well, we'll talk about that too. African leaders meeting with Vladimir Putin this weekend to talk about peace. It's a peace initiative. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, okay, he's going to be talking with over the weekend here Xi Jinping in China. The goal there is said to be peace. We'll assess that. And then we're going to also, just to come back again to Biden's fitness or state of fitness, his health, his mental health, his physical health. We'll take a look at the most recent medical report from Biden's physician. And then you can assess for yourself based on that report and what we see going on the ground in real time, in real life. You can decide for yourself, is Biden fit to hold the office of president right now? And is it appropriate for him to run for re-election? We'll just lay it out. You can decide. Don't go away. More ahead right after this.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching. Maverick News. The world is watching.
So Biden, he is in Pennsylvania, and he is there for a few reasons. He is campaigning, meeting with union leaders. He's speaking. It's sort of one of the first speeches that he's delivering as part of his reelection bid. So that's one of the reasons he's in Pennsylvania. He's reaching out, trying to generate as much support from his traditional base as possible. He says he's a union man, period. And that's the statement he made during a visit to a union hall in Pittsburgh back in 2019. And he's reaching out to union leaders in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia area. But today, he also stopped to talk about the aid the federal government will be giving to address that bridge collapse on I-95 there. And also there was this. He was speaking at, where was this? I want to make sure I get this right. It was a speech dealing with safety issues. And at the end of the speech, he seemed to be confused. In fact, the whole speech seemed to be pretty, well, it didn't make sense. I mean, I'm going to bring it up so that you can see this clip. It's, I hate to laugh because it's actually sad. Let me make sure I get the right one for you. I have so much stuff queued up for you. Well, I thought it was better organized than this. I have it. Here we go. All right. It's all over social media tonight. So you may have already seen this. Some of you maybe haven't. But here it is.
All right. God save the Queen, man. All right. God save the Queen, man.
So there he is at the Safer Community Summit.
All right. God save the Queen, man.
And then you see there, he's gesturing. He doesn't know which way to exit the stage again. Nobody knows why he said what he said there. It's confusing everyone. And he's confused again, trying to figure out which way to leave the stage. So he's asking for direction from his handlers. And then he starts doing that run, that silly run thing that he does. Gets a little giddy up in his step. It's like overcompensation or something. It's kind of weird. But the fact that he's losing his marbles up on the podium again, it has a lot of people worried, honestly, because this guy has his finger on the button. And of course, we've seen him fall just in the last week or so, and it's not anything new. So a lot of people online questioning his health, his mental health, his, whether he's even fit to continue on as president, let alone run for re-election. And then he also stopped to participate in a news conference about the I-95 bridge collapse, which we told you about earlier this week. And here's video of that just to refresh your memory. So this is aerial footage from the bridge collapse in Pennsylvania. A transport truck rolled, caught fire. The heat softened the metal in the structure, and as a result, it collapsed. The driver of the truck passed away. And this is actually part of this portion of the bridge had been constructed some years ago, but this entire section here was undergoing extensive upgrades, updates. A lot of money was being spent here. And then this weird episode happened as well. So Biden goes into Pennsylvania. He's going to be speaking at this news conference. And Senator Fetterman greets him at the airport. And, he's a Democrat. Democrats are real classy, super classy people, right? So here he is in his hoodie and gym shorts greeting the president. Now, is that a class act or what? Maybe it's because it was a casual day for work. Could be just, he's expressing himself through that's his fashion statement. His legs are really milky white. So yeah, there's that. But it gets better. So Fetterman at the news conference was making introductions, and this is what he had to say. So Biden got through his bumbling, and now we have Fetterman with this.
And now I'm standing next to the president again, next to a collapsed bridge here. And he is here to commit to work with the governor and the delegation to make sure that we get this fixed quick, fast as well, too. This is a president that is committed to infrastructure. Yeah, and then on top of that, the dual kind of a law of the inflation bill that is going to make sure that there's going to be bridges all across like this, all across America getting rebuilt. And now I'm standing
next again because it's
the
great.
president again next to a collapsed bridge here, and he is here to commit to work with the governor and the delegation to make sure that we get this fixed quick, fast as well too. This is a president that is committed to infrastructure. Yeah, and then on top of that, the dual kind of a law of the inflation bill that is going to make sure that there's going to be bridges all across like this, all across America getting rebuilt. And now I'm standing next to.
I can't take it. I can't take it anymore. Oh, well, at least he didn't do this. I mean, it you know, they're at least they're more serious than that. But that's Justin Trudeau's famous blackface picture. These are the leaders of the country. These are the people that are supposed to be running things. What is going on, man? What is going on? God save the Queen, man. Joe, Queen died. We now have a king, King Charles III. You went to the Queen's funeral, remember? Apparently not. Yeah, it's a good thing he's got the handlers. Otherwise, he might not ever find his way off the stage. So yeah, that was in. I just, what are you supposed to do with that? This is the president of the United States. He's supposed to be the most powerful man in the world. God save the Queen, man. So yeah, that was yesterday. Then there's all this stuff going on today with the bridge. And so nobody really knows what the heck he was even making reference to. It's not clear why he was referring to the Queen. And like, it's not like he was even over in England. He was in Connecticut for that speech. In Pennsylvania today. I guess when you're traveling, you can easily get confused and lose track of maybe where you are. And then he tacks on at the very end of it, the man, right? God save the Queen, man. Well, come on, man. I'm worried. And so are a lot of other people. So online, Biden is being attacked heavily, obviously, as a result. So we've queued up another Biden mashup of his biggest hits and biggest gaffes.
Vice President, how are you, pal? Thanks for swearing at me. I tell you what, easy to swear at you. We've got news. Rashid Sunak is now the prime minister. You're trying your best, but it never feels like enough. What a stupid son of a bitch. But guess what? We got a lot to do. You gotta say hi to me. We go back a long way. She was 12, I was 30, but anyway, this woman helped me get an awful lot done. Anyway. Well, I'm sick and tired of smart guys. I'm sick and tired of ordinary people being fleeced. I'm tired of being quiet. Where I'm sick and tired. I'm just sick and tired. We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. Wealthy kids, black kids, Asian kids. No, I really mean it, but think how we think about it. I'm sorry it takes so long, guys, but everybody knows I like kids better than people. I like kids better than people. Everybody knows I like kids better than people. Look at them. Now, very important thing I told my daughter and granddaughters, no serious guys till you're 30. Okay. Right? No what? No serious guys till you're 30. I'll keep that in mind. People are waiting for relief. I got them $1.9 trillion relief so far. They're going to be getting checks in the mail that are consequential this week for childcare. A lot has been happened already, number one. Number two, I'm going to fight like heck. Just remind him, I wrote the bill on the environment. Why would I not be for it? Guess what? Employers can't find workers. I said, yeah, pay them more. This is an employees bargaining chip now. What's happening? They're going to have to compete and start paying hardworking people a decent wage. Unchain Wall Street. They're going to put you all back in chains.
Michael's biggest sale of the summer is going on now. Score big savings on all summer floral. Plus, find great deals on all canvas, all frames and shadow boxes, all vinyl, all t-shirts, and
Yep, falling up the stairs, getting onto Air Force One. Oh, Joe.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I think you know how much it means to me to have you swear me in today, and I thank you. Trust and confidence. I've got a lot of thanks to give out here. First and foremost to my perfect wife, Stephanie, my wonderful son, Will, and my daughter, Ava, already mentioned.
And you guys can sit in the edge or what? I don't want you to have to stand all along, but it's up to you. By the way, he gave me permission to touch him.
Expand your capacity is through the partnership that we have, federal and state government, along with local governments. This issue is ongoing each year, as we have discussed. It gets worse. It affects real people.
Thank you, Boris. And I want to thank that fellow down under. Thank you very much, pal. Appreciate it, Mr. Prime Minister.
Oh, he's sniffing the hair again. Oh, he kissed her.
No matter what their cost, 2, 10, 12, 15. Oops, stepping on them. It's black. Anyway. Oh, man, this is boring. Isn't this boring? Charlie, this is boring. Come on.
I call on you to commit to concrete actions to stop the destruction of this magnificent planet. This conference is one of the most important meetings in history. On behalf of the debate team, I ask you.
They woke him up.
Please welcome Prime Minister of Italy, Mario Draghi.
Weird. Holding that woman's hand and not letting go. Now he can't put his jacket on.
And by the way, you know, I sit on the stand and it get hot. I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. They look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
There's nobody there to shake his hand. Nobody behind you, Joe. Which way are you going to go? And he's wandering around. He can't figure out which way to turn. He's going to go to his right. Walk off the bridge.
By the way, I very much worry about this guy's biceps. His biceps are big as my calf. Look at this. There's a man. I hope we're on the same side.
He's Russian.
I don't care who he is. He's got some real biceps. We call them guns.
He's standing there. He's looking around. He doesn't know what to do. And here he is trying to leave the stage again, doesn't know what he stops, turns. Where do I go? What am I doing? Starts. Where do I go?
Mr. President, thank you. At the end of such a momentous event, the word thank you seems kind of inadequate.
On the steps we've taken, he said, and I quote, "The combination of private enterprise and government working together has been really successful." He went on to say, all the way through the supply chain, there's a lot of innovation. Because of the actions we've taken, things have begun to change. End of quote. In the past 3 weeks, the number of containers sitting on docks, we're going to seize their yachts, their luxury homes, and other ill-begotten gains of Putin's kleptocracy. Kleptocracy. The guys who are the kleptocracies.
So Russia's the kleptocracy? Obviously, a lot of people worried about his mental state. He has been attacked by his opponents, with people raising questions about his fitness. The Trump campaign has been hitting him pretty hard on that front over the last, especially the last month. And we have the medical report, where it's a memorandum for his assistant, the White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, from the physician to the president, Kevin C. O'Connor. And in this document, it's 5 pages long. I'll share it with you here. This is what they had to say. I don't know if this will reassure you enough or not, but this is what they're saying. And this is dated February 16th of last year. And I think this is the most recent. This is the most recent one I've been able to find anyway. But it says, as requested by the patient, the following is a summary of the current health status of President Joseph R. Biden. The president remains fit for duty and fully executes all of his responsibilities without any exemptions or accommodations. I have conducted a comprehensive review of President Biden's medical history and a detailed physical examination. This physical has included specialty consultation with several of our presidential specialty consultants from the Walter Rand National Military Medical Center. These specialties have included optometry, dentistry, orthopedics, foot and ankle, orthopedic spine, podiatry, physical therapy, neurology, cardiology, radiology, and dermatology. My conclusions have been further informed through discussions with several of my fellow professors from the George Washington University School of Medicine and Health Sciences. The document updates my last statement from 19th November 2021. Today's memorandum speaks to his current health and fitness and addresses any interval change. So interval history is here, and it says that the most notable interval history for this past year was the president's very extensively reported upper respiratory infection from, you guessed it, COVID-19. His initial infection ran from 21st July through 27th of July, 2022. He then experienced rebound COVID positivity, which started on the 30th of July, 2022, and he tested negative on the 6th of August, 2022. But, you know, he was vaccinated. Weird how that happened, especially after he stood up and told the world and assured Americans that if you got vaccinated, you wouldn't get COVID, you wouldn't get sick, and you wouldn't die. Well, he got COVID and he got sick, but he did not die. The assessment continues here and says, fortunately, having been fully vaccinated twice, boosted at the time of the initial infection, the president experienced only mild symptoms, consisting mostly of a deep, loose cough and hoarseness. He responded very well to standard outpatient therapy, to include the antiviral medication Paxlovid. His vital signs remained normal throughout his illness. Most importantly, his oxygenation remained excellent on room air. His pulse oximetry never fell below 97%. The president experienced rebound positivity several days after testing negative, as has been well documented. Again, his course remained mild. Despite his infection, the president was able to continue the business of the American people, working from the executive residence. So, COVID turned out to be not so bad for the prez. He isolated in accordance with Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recommendations. He made it a very deliberate priority to protect any of the executive residence, White House, Secret Service, and other staff whose duties required any, albeit socially distanced, proximity to him. The president has not experienced any residual symptoms, which may be considered to be long COVID. He has received his bivalent COVID vaccine. Well, ain't good. COVID ain't going to get him now. No, not after that. No, he's had plenty of injections now, lots and lots of needles. President Biden is an active 80-year-old white male, it says here, who is currently being treated for the following. So this is all the bad, terrible stuff that's going on, all his ailments. First, valvular atrial fibrillation, stable. So a little bit of a heart flutter there. He had cardiology consultation, persistent AFib with normal ventricular response. He remains completely asymptomatic. An electrocardiogram confirms this rhythm with a rate of 16.9 and no acute ST or T wave changes. He had an echocardiogram. So, his ticker's still a ticking. He had hyperlipidemia. What is that? I'm not sure what that is. Hyperlipidemia. That's what it is. Hyperlipidemia. So they're checking his lipid levels. Okay, cardiology consultation. I'm not a doctor, so I better be careful not to fully assess this. The president's lipid levels remain remarkably low on his current regimen of rosuvastatin. Okay, so he's taking statins. Crestor. Lipid panel, total cholesterol, and he has gastroesophageal reflux. Uh-oh. He's got reflux. That's uncomfortable. His lung examination, oxygenation, saturation, and chest imaging remain entirely normal. He will continue his current regimen. So he's got seasonal allergies. He has stiffened gait, moderate to severe degenerative osteoarthritic change, spondylosis. It's stable. His orthopedics, spine, orthopedics, foot and ankle, podiatry, neurology, radiology, and physical therapy consultation are reviewed and appreciated. So it says here that as of November 2021 physical, the doc says that the president was demonstrating a perceptibly stiffened ambulatory gait as compared to before his foot fracture. Oh yeah, he broke his foot. I forgot. He says, the doctor says, I assembled a team comprised of spine, foot, and ankle radiology, physical therapy, and movement disorder neurologic specialists to carefully examine and assess the president. When you break your foot at that age, I'm not sure if you ever really come back fully from something like that, The foot takes a long time to heal. After careful analysis of the patient's history, it says, findings on detailed physical exam and a review of radiologic imaging, the team concluded that much of his stiffness He's a pretty stiff dude all the way around, really. You know, especially when he's being a stiff, kind of tough guy. Is in fact a result of degenerative wear and tear, osteoarthritic changes of his spine. So you got some spine stuff going on. If you were in your 80s, you would too. Moderate to severe spondylosis was demonstrated at multiple levels, but did not result in nerve root compression significant enough that they would warrant any specific treatment. The president's gait remains stiff, but he has not worsened since last year. He got one stiff gait. Examination this year was unchanged, with the exception of possibly tighter hamstrings and calves. So let's move down here. What else is wrong with the Prez? Mild sensory peripheral neuropathy of feet stable. Neurology, orthopedic, foot and ankle podiatric consultation are reviewed and appreciated. Finding a mild peripheral neuropathy and is noted as above. The most common cause of peripheral neuropathy is diabetes. The president does not have diabetes. Hemoglobin, A1C, and fasting blood glucose are both normal, so he doesn't have diabetes. He's just got foot issues. Other common etiologies for this include alcoholism, vitamin B12 deficiency, and thyroid disease. The president does not consume alcohol. Really? Okay, we'll take his word for it. His B12 levels are normal, and his thyroid function also remains normal. In up to 46% of cases, especially when the symptoms are mild, such as with this patient, specific causes are not identified. The custom orthotics have been prescribed to optimize foot biomechanics. Yes, and then there's the cancer. Skin cancer surveillance. Dermatology consultation is reviewed and appreciated. It says again, it is well established that President Biden did spend a good deal of time in the sun in his youth. He has had several localized non-melanoma skin cancers removed with MOBS surgery before he started his presidency. These lesions were completely excised with clear margins. Total body skin exam was performed for dermatologic surveillance. As was done in November 2021, several small areas of actinic change on his face and head were treated with liquid nitrogen cryotherapy. One small lesion on the president's chest was excised today and sent for traditional biopsy. We remember all that in the news. That made headlines at the time. They've kind of gone quiet on the president's cancer story. Optometry surveillance. The president underwent routine cycloplegic dilated eye examination. I hate it when they do that. It's so uncomfortable. His overall eye health is reassuring. There were no signs of glaucoma, retinopathy, macular degeneration, or significant cataracts. So he can see, but he didn't see the sandbag when he tripped and vaulted down and went boom. Current optometric refraction was obtained and contact lens prescriptions were updated. Dental surveillance, dental consult is reviewed and appreciated. Yes, it is, very much. Routine dental exam with x-rays revealed no dental issues requiring any interventions. He's got good teeth, must brush them. Probably uses fluoride toothpaste. So he's taking, these are the drugs that he's on, his medications. He's on Eliquis, Crestor, Dymista, Allegra for his allergies, and Pepsid, no doubt for that acid reflux. Patient has no known medication allergies. Social history. Oh, he's very social. He's a good hair sniffer. The president does not use any tobacco products, does not drink alcohol, and he continues to work out at least 5 days per week. So, what are his measurements? You saw him in that fashion bra in that video. Physical exam, height, he's 72 inches tall. He weighs 178 pounds. His body mass index is 24.1. His blood pressure is 128/76. Wow, that's pretty darn good. His pulse is 69, his respiratory rate 15, temperature 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. And his pulse oximetry is 98%. He is fully oxygenated. He's got plenty of O2 flowing through his blood. Physical exam is unchanged from baseline. Head, ears, eyes, nose, and throat are normal. He has no enlarged lymph nodes or goiter. His lungs are clear. His heart demonstrates regular pulse rate and characteristically irregular rhythm. He has no significant murmurs, gallops, or rubs. His abdomen is soft. Ooh, it's a soft one. Non-distended. Oh, that's good. Liver and spleen are normal size. Patient has no external hernias. Thank goodness for that. Extremities have a full range of motion. That's why he giddy ups and gallops when he leaves the podium. Strength and reflexes are all normal and symmetrical. Cranial nerves and vestibular function are normal. No, what is that word? Bradykinesia, or start hesitation. No resting tremor, no rigidity. But you said he was stiff. Mildly decreased heat, cold sensation in both feet. My feet get cold too. Patient does have several areas of lentigo. Lentigo? I don't even know what that is. I'm going to look that up. What is lentigo? What's the president got? Is that contagious? Lentigo. It's a small, clearly defined patch of skin that is darker than the surrounding skin as a result of an increased number of pigment cells. Lentigenes are generally darker than freckles. Do not fade and become more frequent with age. So he's got a great big giant freckle. And actinic changes. One small lesion on his chest was sent for biopsy. He's freckle man. Labs not specifically mentioned above. So comprehensive metabolic panel was normal to include electrolytes, creatinine, blood, urea, nitrogen, protein, and liver enzymes. He had urinalysis was normal, and no glucose, protein, or blood was in his pee-pee. Complete blood count. I shouldn't make light of this stuff. This is very serious. Complete blood count. CBC was normal. Vitamin D level was normal. I wouldn't like it if I had to have my physical released to the public and I had people making fun of my urine. Vitamin D level was normal. Magnesium level was normal. So I have to refrain. I must behave. Summary. The patient's current medical considerations are detailed as above. They include AFib with normal ventricular response, hyperlipidemia, gastroesophageal reflux, seasonal allergies, spinal arthritis, and mild sensory peripheral neuropathy of the feet. For these, he takes 3 common prescription medications and 2 common over-the-counter medications. President Biden remains a healthy, vigorous 80-year-old male who is fit to successfully execute the duties of the presidency, to include those as chief executive, head of state, and commander-in-chief. And that is from the one, the only, Kevin C. O'Connor, physician to El Presidente, Joseph Biden. That's what the doc says, but that is from some time ago. What was the date on that one again? 16th of February of last year. And since then, he's given a few kind of nutty speeches, and he's fallen down and gone boom. I think a couple of times. So, does that make you feel any better, folks? I'll leave it with you. Don't go away. When we come back, I'll try to keep my thoughts straight. And the news continues here on the Maverick News Channel.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program. For your mind.
Looks like we've got a Biden lover in the audience. I don't think that's funny, Rick Walker, says Joe Butler. Okay, thanks, Joe. Yeah. And there's Strange Fellows podcast, the one, the only Lori. She says, and how's his brain? They didn't say. They didn't say. Yeah, what other comments were in there? What do you guys think? Oxygenated, says Justine. Yeah, I didn't know that Biden didn't drink any alcohol at all. Trump says that he doesn't drink either. Yeah, and I made a reference to fluoride. Somebody, I just kind of saw that fly by in the comments here. Justine says fluoride is a known neurotoxin. All Seeing Heart said, did somebody say fluoride? LMFAO. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And Laurie says he blamed that dog when he broke his foot tripping over the dog. Yeah. If it's not a dog, it's a sandbag. And, oh, yeah, the shoelace got caught on the pedal of the bicycle, and that's why he faulted down again over there. I'm sorry, Joe. I didn't mean to make a fun again. And get you all upset about saying things about your hero. I'm sorry, I can't. He's the president. He puts himself out there. It's fair. It's fair. He's open to public criticism, and if you're the president of the United States, you better be in tip-top condition, man. Like all this, honestly, the fumbling around, the falling up the stairs, the falling down the stairs, the can't figure out how to get off the stage. You need help. You're out in the Easter egg hunt, and the guy in the Easter bunny costume, which is like totally surreal, has to actually take you by the hand and lead you back to where you're supposed to be. You fall down, you go boom. Then you turn around, you give speeches where you're completely incoherent. Nobody knows what the hell you're even talking about. And then you say, and God bless the Queen, man, when the Queen has been dead for months and you now have a king. And there's no need or reason to be even talking about the royal family in any capacity at the speech that you're giving. None of this makes any sense. He doesn't make any sense, and it's scary as hell. And that's my assessment. And so, yeah, I'm sorry. I can't help but laugh because if I don't, I'm going to cry. It's ridiculous. The whole thing, him being the president, is ridiculous. This is like it's a huge joke. It's an insult to the people. He's clearly not the guy in charge. JCBU Undercover says Biden right on top of things last year. Yeah. So I'm sorry, but this is the commander in chief. This is the guy who's supposed to be making these important decisions. We have the Secretary of State over in China taking direction from the president. We have a war going on in Ukraine and a possible escalation over in China. We could be at war with China before you know it over this situation in Taiwan. And you've got this guy at the helm. No. It's not right. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. It's just that simple. Speaking of that trip to China, that's Secretary of State Antony Blinken. And I want to watch that thing with Biden one more time. Just one more time. Let's just take a look at this, okay? I'm going to bring it up. It's all over Twitter. You can watch it later if you want. But I definitely want to look at this one more time. Here he is in Connecticut. This was Connecticut yesterday.
All right. God save the Queen, man. All right. God save the Queen, man.
Why does he do that gallop thing at the end? When he does that all the time. He's just, instead of walking, he has to do the little run thing. It's the strangest thing. Is it a macho thing? Like, what the hell is it? I don't get it. Very weird. So, yeah, Blinken now, at the president's direction, off to China. So what are they going to be addressing there? Well, you can be sure that they are going to be talking about trade. That'll be one of the main subjects for sure. Talking about, and specifically with trade, the whole issue with computer chips is going to be on the table. They'll be talking about that. They'll be trying to, well, we're told, Blinken says that they're going to be trying to mend relations, especially after all that hullabaloo about the so-called spy balloons from China that were shot down or otherwise rendered incapacitated that were floating over the United States and Canada. So the Blinken visit to China was delayed. His original trip was canceled because of the balloon thing, which China said at the time was monitoring weather. And it drifted across all of the continental U.S. and then was finally destroyed by American fighter jet or jets. And there was the one shot down over Canada, too. So Blinken's meetings will include meetings with China's top foreign policy officials, but it's not exactly clear. It's not certain if he'll actually meet with President Xi Jinping. I think he probably will, but that's me speculating. And I think that he probably will end up meeting with him because, heck, Xi Jinping met with Bill Gates yesterday. So why wouldn't he meet with Blinken? Well, maybe he just doesn't like him. So yeah, they're supposed to be working on mending relations. I'm not, like I said earlier this week, I don't think Blinken is the right guy to send. I think Blinken is good at war, but not good at peace. So if you want to mend fences and send someone to be diplomatic, I don't think he's your man. But there he is. That's his job. And then, as I said, trade issues. China also has these long-standing, ongoing accusations of copyright infringement, theft of intellectual property. That was an area that Trump was really focused on when he was president. And I'm not clear at this point how much emphasis Blinken might put on that during his visit. My guess is because this is sort of a short trip, it's limited in scope. They might touch on these kinds of trade issues, but I don't think that they will get into it extensively. I know that Blinken is also expected to talk about the drug issue and specifically fentanyl, which the U.S. is said to be concerned about because of its origination in China. So they are going to be talking about that. And then, of course, there's the whole war thing, the saber rattling, and they are said to be prioritizing discussions on dialing down the tensions over there, We've had U.S. and Chinese warships facing off in that area, in the Taiwan Strait and the South China Sea, in even recent weeks, and military drills and shows of strength from both sides, the whole thing just giving more rise to concern and increasing the risk of another kinetic confrontation while we're still fighting. And yeah, we're fighting in Ukraine. There are people there, Canadians, I think, and Americans, maybe not in a very public way, but there are boots on the ground, as they like to say, in Ukraine, even if only in an advisory capacity. And then you have mercenaries who have gone in there too. Actually, mercenaries, soldiers of fortune from a variety of countries around the world fighting in that conflict. Anybody ever see the magazine, Soldier of Fortune magazine? Anybody ever read that or even subscribe to it? I remember as a kid seeing those on newsstand shelves, and I don't know. I never ever purchased one. I was never that interested in it, but I haven't seen a copy of that on a newsstand in years. Maybe it's because I'm Canadian. But those guys are still out there. They can make a lot of money fighting. Oh, so what else have we got going on tonight? Well, let me just see what else I have queued up for you. The field of candidates is broadening on the Republican side. Another contender entered the race. There's another challenger to Donald Trump. This is Miami Mayor Francis Suarez, and he announced his presidential campaign this week. I'll just bring up his address. It's just a short little clip here, and it'll give you an idea of what he was all about. He takes a different perspective on some of these issues, like he's very critical of Ron DeSantis. Actually, he took a swipe at Ron DeSantis during his announcement there, where he said that he's going to be seeking the nomination, saying that he wouldn't handle the Disney issue the way that DeSantis has handled it. Here he is. Here's
for a next generation leader who has the vision to lead and the character to connect with everyone by looking at them in the eyes and listening to them, not shouting at them and lecturing them. It is time for a leader with a record of real results, not just rhetoric, who believes with all his heart in the American dream, who wants to share it with everyone, regardless of race, religion, or complexion. It's time for a leader who can connect with segments of our country that Republicans have historically lost, like young voters and urban voters, and segments we can make gains with, like Hispanics and suburban women. Necesitamos un líder que pueda conectar con todos los americanos e inspirarlos a creer en un futuro mejor para ellos y sus niños.
Anybody speak Spanish?
And like Ronald Reagan, it's time for a leader who believes in America's greatest power, Americans. Who stare into the infinity of possibilities and helped every American find their purpose by helping them each make a dent in the universe. And that is why just yesterday, I filed paperwork to run for president of the United States of America.
Well, at least he didn't do it on Twitter. This went smoother than the DeSantis announcement. But I bet you a lot of you didn't even know
By the
that
way,
this
all who
happened. They
screaming
probably
is
have
not
never
from
heard of this
Miami.
guy before.
He's from California, so blame California. When President Reagan greeted Pope John Paul II upon his arrival in Miami, the Pope said to his audience, "America, I come as one who already knows you and loves you, as one who wishes you to fulfill your noble destiny of service to the world. America, I, Francis Suarez, come as one who loves you and
He
one you
loves
have
you.
given every blessing to. And because I love this country, I want to serve it with humility and gratitude for all that you have done for me.
Let's get this
I
guy on the
believe America
show.
is still a shining city on a hill whose eyes of the world are upon us and whose promise needs to be restored. And I believe this city needs more than a shouter or a fighter. I believe it needs a servant. It needs a mayor. My name is Francis Suarez, and I am here to help. Thank you, and God bless you.
Uh-oh. I just want to roll that back. What did he say there?
Drinking warm
Hang on a
water
second.
before bed.
Oh, where did let me bring back the there it is. Okay. All right. Just go back. I want to listen to what he said there at the end.
Are upon us.
Listen to what he said
And
about
whose promise needs to be restored. And I believe this city needs more than a shouter or a fighter. I believe it needs a servant. It needs a mayor.
A mayor.
My name is Francis Suarez, and I am here to help. Thank you, and God bless you.
Uh-oh. I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. Has he not heard the Reagan speech? Why would you say what is it with these guys running for president? Do they not know their history, even their pop culture? My name is Francis Suarez, and I am here to help. I'm here from the government. I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. You don't say that. That's a Reagan joke. And he's running to be the Republican nominee. Doesn't he know? And then he is the mayor of Miami right now. And then he makes reference to this city needs a mayor. Well, poor choice of words. I had to roll that back and figure out what he was trying to say. He's making a reference to that speech about the bright, shining city on the hill, which is a reference to America. The city is America, metaphorically. And then he's saying that city needs a mayor, but that's poor choice of words because most people won't ever comprehend what it is you're saying. It sounds confusing. It sounds now like you're running for mayor, but you're already the mayor, so people are going to get confused. Sorry. I'm just letting you know. Too late. Speech is done. He's time to correct, I guess, and right his boat. But again, at least he didn't present or kick off his campaign. At least didn't kick off his campaign on Twitter and initiate a giant Twitter dumpster fire like DeSantis did. Here are the presidential wannabes on the Republican side. You have Ron DeSantis, who again had some real struggles launching his campaign. And even though, I've liked what he's done as governor of Florida, and he looked like a super strong contender heading into this thing, he has stumbled and fumbled. His campaign has not been very strong. And there's the man, Donald Trump, clearly the front runner. Most people expecting him to again easily retain the nomination and run again. The only obstacle being his indictment, and we're not sure how that will play out. And then there's Nikki Haley. who combines executive experience, foreign policy chops, a tie to Trump's administration, home field advantage, and an early state and a historic candidacy. That's what these graphics say. These were created by Politico. And then there's Mike Pence. He's in there too, but he ain't going to win. Too many MAGA people are mad at him. Mike, my friend, they're upset with you. They're not going to support you. And then there's Tim Scott, the South Carolina senator. Yeah, he's in there. And there's Ted Cruz. He is not declared, though, and has been ruled out. But, I think that he might, in many ways, end up being very supportive of Trump. That's my guess in the end. Ryan Binkley has declared. He's a Dallas area businessman and a non-denominational pastor. And then there's Doug Burgum. Only 3 states have a smaller population than North Dakota, which has elected Burgum, a former tech executive, and to 2 terms as governor. And then there's, the big man. Yeah, he's a big guy. He's Chris Christie. And I think he was polling at was either 0% or 1%. So good luck there, Chris. But I don't think you've got much of a shot. And then there's Larry Elder. I think he's got a growing fan base. He's a social media influencer, conservative commentator, news guy, media personality, if you will. So we'll see how he does. And there's Asa Hutchinson. He's a U.S. attorney, congressman, and managed the Bill Clinton impeachment. He was a DEA administrator and 2-term Arkansas governor. And there's Perry Johnson. He failed to qualify for the ballot in his last campaign for Michigan governor in 2022, but this businessman, who is a self-described quality guru, has already been running cable TV ads in Iowa. He is declared. He's in the race. And then there's Vivek Ramaswamy. He's an investor and former pharmaceutical company CEO. Oh, yes, the people on the Freedom and MAGA side, I'm sure they'll love that he's a pharmaceutical company CEO. And he's launched his own campaign, which is being described by many as an outsider campaign. And he's a big critic of wokeness among corporations and other institutions. But coming from the pharmaceutical industry, I think that there will be a lot of skeptics. And then there's this guy here. We just told you about him. There's Francis Suarez. And then there's this guy, Will Hurd. He's a big maybe. He's the former Texas congressman. He retired in 2020. And now he's looking at maybe taking a run for the nomination. And then there's another maybe. It's a Mike Rogers. Rogers says here, gave up the gavel of the House Intelligence Committee in 2014 to become a talk radio personality. And now he's looking at a possible political comeback. And Greg Abbott, probably not, unlikely. Kristi Noem, unlikely. We had our guest on, the author of the book, Terror Strikes, Joseph M. Leonard, yesterday, saying that his dream ticket would include Kristi Noem as VP, maybe with a DeSantis down the road. But it says here that she's an unlikely to get involved in the race. Marco Rubio, unlikely. Glenn Youngkin, unlikely. Tom Cotton has been ruled out. Larry Hogan ruled out. Mike Pompeo ruled out. Rick Scott ruled out. And Chris Sununu has been ruled out. That's the full look at what's going on in the race to secure the Republican nomination for the upcoming presidential race. Any serious contenders in there? Still DeSantis, Trump, DeSantis, Trump. Trump's way out in front. Yeah, so let's take another break, and then we'll continue with our political talk. Don't go away.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, so there is this poll out, a new one. That's an NPR Marist poll for the Republicans, which indicates that 83% of respondents want Trump to continue to run for president despite the indictment. And 64% will likely support Trump over another Republican candidate. In addition, it says Trump's net favorability among Republicans is up 14 points from February. So the indictment not hurting Trump at all. In fact, I would say to you that the indictment might actually be helping him. But it's a strange kind of support now, I think, for Trump. It's a lot different than it was back in 2016 and even in the last election, because I think it's much softer. It's actually, the numbers are up, but if offered a better alternative, or if there are other developments, I think just because of all the drama that continues to encircle Trump, I think some people are getting tired of it. And so as much as it's helping him because his base of support is solidified with that kind of attack, there's also an element of if there was a really good alternative, then I think people would leave him to go to the alternative if it meant that there was less turmoil, especially during the actual election. Not so much during the nomination process, but during the election. The people in the middle, the soft voters, the people who might go Democrat or might go Republican, I think they might go maybe with a Democrat like RFK Jr. possibly, instead of voting for Trump if that alternative was offered to them, because they're tired of all the drama. Not from the actual base, though. So the nomination, I think, is his. The presidency, the election, that remains to be seen. Let me just take this comment down from Croaky, I guess is the name. Yeah, that was a reference. Who is this? That was a reference to who is the guy on the screen, the mayor of Miami, announcing his candidacy. Linda Dyer says Chris Saccoci is getting the Trump treatment. Yeah, well, mainstream media, they don't want to give him any attention, right? And yeah, he had to turn himself into the cops the other day. Chris Saccoci is the guy running for mayor of Toronto, prominent figure in the freedom movement. What else do we have here? Any other comments? Yeah, a few. Mackie Creations says Trump 2024. Lori says too much testosterone in this race. Well, a lot of people there. Honestly, I think the wide field helps Trump because it divides up the other vote and diminishes the chances of the others, honestly. So also today, what do we have going on? I think I had something on here about RFK. Let me see if I've got that for you. Just before we move on to these other subjects. Oh, here's another, Biden compilation for you, just because we care so much and we want to make sure we give the incumbent as much on the Democrat side, as much coverage as we can, to be fair.
He touched down not even 4 hours ago.
That was a quick trip, but as you said, very impactful.
Ooh, don't be careful. Watch that last step there, Joe. Oh, almost folded down and go to boom again.
He has allocated to invest in police departments and training of police officers. It appears as though the president did have a slight trip there as he's boarding Air Force One.
Fall down, go boom. Oh, here's the cycle thing. Yeah. He's so energetic and athletic. Look at what a stud.
No matter what their cost, 2, 10, 12, 15. Oops, stepping on them. That's black. Anyway.
He was doing his little gallop thing there. And oh crap. Oh, look. Watch your step. Oh, careful. Look at the sandbag. Oh, jeez. Oh, Joe. You know there are sandbags
Joe Biden
there.
wants to run again
Careful.
when he can barely walk.
Yeah. So that was a video compilation from Don't Walk, Run. You can check out their work. And yeah, kind of funny. I'm sorry. But when you're the president, you open yourself up to stuff like that. And we mentioned that one candidate coming from the pharmaceutical industry, Vivek Ramaswamy. Well, this is the kind of story that just adds to the skepticism of people coming from that industry, especially when they want to run for political office. So here today, this one being reported by CNN, 2 cancer drug trials put on hold after patients died. 2 clinical trials, it says, have been paused within the past 2 days because 6 participants, including 1 child, have died. This coming from reports issued by the drug companies themselves. The 2 trials were unrelated. They were in different stages and testing therapies, but both were testing new cancer treatments. One was testing a treatment for a blood cancer called acute myeloid leukemia, or AML, and the other was testing a new agent for ovarian cancer. It says here that deaths in clinical trials are thought to be rare. There was a study published in 2019. It looked at deaths in studies testing breast cancer drugs over a decade in Germany and found that out of more than 23,000 patients treated in 32 trials, 88 of them, or 0.4%, died on their therapies. Of those 88 deaths, only 27% were determined to be related to the treatments themselves. So this goes on and says that the AML trial was a phase 1 safety study being conducted by the Cambridge, Massachusetts-based biotech company 2seventy Bio in conjunction with Seattle Children's Hospital. So the hospital paused the study while the death is investigated. That coming from the chief medical officer at the hospital. And the participant who died was the first to take a higher dose of the study therapy, which combines CAR T cells that are turned on by the anti-cancer drug rapamycin. My goodness. Well, says here that the FDA had issued a partial clinical hold after 5 study participants had fatal bleeding events, a rate that was higher than would have been expected. About 560 people have taken the study drug to date, the company said. The FDA is pausing further enrollment while the bleeding events in the study, which included an unspecified number of low-grade events as well as the deaths, are being investigated, according to a news release. Participants who are enrolled in the trial will continue to receive the investigational treatment. So they're going to have a comprehensive assessment conducted and reports issued. And the FDA itself has not commented, the Food and Drug Administration has not commented on this yet. Yeah. So, and then there's this. I know we have a lot of common law advocates and sovereign citizen types who watch the program because we've had discussions about it. And if you're curious about the efficacy of employing common law arguments when pulled over or when you go to court, or especially when you're pulled over by a police officer, here's a woman who tried it. Let's see how it went for her. I haven't watched this whole thing, but this was sent to me today and I was asked to play it. So here we go.
Driver's license?
I don't have to give you a driver's license to drive a car. This is not a commercial vehicle.
Okay.
I'm not driving, I'm traveling.
Okay.
I have all the laws back here.
Okay. So you're not going to give me a driver's license?
I'm not going to give you a driver's license. I don't have to give you a driver's license.
Okay.
I'm traveling. I don't have to have a driver's license to drive a vehicle.
Okay. In what state is that?
Any state. It's common law, natural law.
Okay.
Constitutional law.
Okay.
You need to get a supervisor out here.
I do?
Yes.
Okay. So what
I'm
law?
Your supervisor.
So just like I'm requesting your driver's license.
Well, I'm sorry, I don't have to have a driver's license to drive a vehicle.
Okay. Sorry, Turner. A, she won't identify. She won't produce a driver's license. She's doing 58.
Okay, I do not have to have a driver's license to drive a vehicle.
Let my officer speak first, then I'll speak to you.
Her vehicle stopped for speeding. 54 and 35 coming off the bridge. She asked me where the speed limit was, saying that is before she got off the bridge. She actually did a U-turn. We were in the 35 zone. We pull over here. I introduced myself. I said, the reason why we're driving this fast, and I said, you got your license. She immediately goes into, I don't need a license to drive the vehicle.
Okay.
And then she said, I am traveling.
Okay. So, you do need a license to drive the vehicle. And you do have to identify yourself to these officers.
I do not have to have a license to drive a vehicle.
Yes, you do.
I do not.
You're wrong, but okay.
I know common law, natural
I don't
law,
care about common law.
law.
You're in the state of Florida. You're in the state of Florida. You're in the state of Florida.
It doesn't matter in what state
It does matter.
I'm in the U.S.
It does matter. So you better hope the information you gave us comes back as to being you. So at this point in time, I need you to shut the vehicle off and step out of the car.
I'm not getting out of the vehicle.
You're going to get out of the car.
Okay. Well, that doesn't seem to be going very well, but whatever. Wildfire situation, and I know our friends down in the United States concerned because their air quality has been affected, although strangely, the wildfire story seems to be kind of waning. It's not getting the attention that it was even just days ago. Part of the reason, I guess, is because in Nova Scotia, all of the Nova Scotia wildfires are now considered to be under control tonight. So a lot of positive progress being made out there. The provincial government has announced that the huge Barrington Lake wildfire in Shelburne County, which started back May 27th, is finally under control. That fire grew to more than 235 square kilometers, the largest recorded in the province's history. The fire has forced more than 6,000 people from their homes and destroyed 60 houses and cottages, as well as 150 other structures. And as much as it is a disaster, it has also become very political in many ways, these fires. We had people talking about the provincial government's unwillingness to accept some help from retired fire service personnel out in Nova Scotia. And I do not understand or don't know why the province declined those offers. They may have had good reason, they may not have. I have not heard any explanation so far of any substance to make me understand why. But anyway, here's the situation out in Alberta. Total number of fires sitting at 73. The number out of control, or the big red ones, are out of control. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So way down the number out of control, because they were up about 30, 32. So you have 9 or 10 fewer out of control fires in Alberta tonight. And of course, you have wildfire situations in British Columbia, Ontario, Manitoba, I think Saskatchewan as well. So just about everywhere. Still not looking that great, but looking much better than it was. And the concerns about air quality, I think, on the U.S. side also subsiding. What else do I have to show you tonight? I have in St. Petersburg, there was a delegation from South Africa that is meeting with Vladimir Putin. Hang on here. Here we go. I have the footage. So these guys traveled to Ukraine. These are from, I think, 5 or 6 different African countries to meet with Putin. And they're there on a peace mission. And media in Africa saying that they're looking at this in a very positive way. The coverage from the mainstream media in Africa has been very upbeat, generally speaking. They're saying that Putin has been treating the African leaders with respect. South African President Ramaphosa told Putin that the war in Ukraine must end. Those were his words to the president. And President Volodymyr Zelensky, Ukrainian president, told the delegation yesterday that he would not enter talks with Russia while they occupied Ukrainian land. At this meeting in St. Petersburg, Ramaphosa also called for both parties to return their prisoners of war and said children removed by Russia should be returned home. Two different stories on those children, where the Russians say they're protecting the kids, and on the other side, they're basically being accused of essentially kidnapping them and transporting them against their will to Russia. Two very different stories, that's for sure. Oh my. Okay. So as the African delegation called for the return of the children to their families, Mr. Putin interrupted their speech and claimed that Russia was protecting them, as I said. So Ramaphosa says children are sacred. We moved them, or rather, Putin said that children are sacred. He said we moved them out of the conflict zone, saving their lives and health. The UN says that they have evidence of the illegal transfer of hundreds of Ukrainian children to Russia. But we've also seen that the UN has been unwilling, honestly, to even listen to, at times, Russian speakers at the United Nations. So I'm not sure that that's balanced. But again, it isn't the United States intervening here or becoming involved to try to initiate peace talks. It's leaders from Africa. Previous to that, we've seen China step up and take a leadership role on the peace front globally. And the United States is falling behind. But I guess how can you call for peace when you're actively funding and even participating in the war in Ukraine? So this African delegation is made up of representatives from South Africa, Egypt, Senegal, Congo, Brazzaville, Comoros, Zambia, and Uganda. It has been specifically designed for breadth and balance, really, with members from different parts of Africa with different views on the conflict. But the overarching goal is peace. So we've got our eye on that this weekend and hoping for the best, but I'm honestly not optimistic. I think we're still very far away from any kind of agreement or peace deal, that is for sure. Yes, Daniel Ellsberg. His family issued a statement. He's the whistleblower who worked for the Rand Corporation, who released the Pentagon Papers to the media. And as a result, it revealed that the United States knew and was talking about how they were fighting a war that was unwinnable at the time. And finally, those papers were published by the New York Times and then later other newspapers and media organizations as well. And so he passed away this week. He was in his 90s. And he was surrounded by family, friends. They managed his pain. And we are told that he even took some time to watch one of his favorite movies repeatedly before passing, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Let me just run this clip from the past where he was at a news conference and was asked about, why did he do what he did? Did he regret any of it? And asked about the risk involved in releasing those papers at the time. And we know now that he had said that his only real regret was that he didn't release them sooner, even though he risked going to jail over this for a very long time. But he wished that he had released them sooner because so many people were dying in Vietnam at the time.
You've had charges now hanging over your head, so to speak, for some months, and now more serious charges. As time goes on and as you become more deeply entwined in this matter, have your feelings changed, or are they changing toward the entire case?
Toward the case?
Toward the entire matter.
I can't regret having done what I knew at the time to be what I ought to do, my duty as a citizen. I have no way that I can regret that.
You're not having any second thoughts about your action now, is that right?
Oh, certainly not.
Dr. Ellsberg, at a recent press conference, you said you were willing to accept any responsibility or anything that came for your part in the Pentagon Papers. The latest indictment says a 115-year prison term and a $120,000 fine for maximum. Are your thoughts still the same, that you're willing to accept any consequences?
I have two thoughts about that. I go back to my earlier answer. How can you measure the jeopardy that I'm in, whether it's 10 years, 20 years, 115 years, or other ludicrous amounts like that, to the penalty that has been paid already by 50,000 American families here and hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese families? It would be absolutely presumptuous of me to pity myself in that context, and I certainly don't, and I'd be ashamed of myself.
And also in the statement from the family that was issued, Ellsberg, before passing, expressed extreme concern about the possibility of a nuclear war. Issued a warning through this family statement to the world, really, and expressed real concern about the escalating tension between the United States and China and the war in Ukraine. All this happening while we have Blinken over in China this weekend. And further escalation in Ukraine, where we're seeing more and more sophisticated weapons being used to fight this conflict. It's getting to the point now where we're actually seeing, for the very first time in history, weapons using artificial intelligence to actually make decisions on when to pull the trigger instead of human beings. Here's a report confirming that from Wyon, and we'll just listen to this.
The Russia-Ukraine war has been fought with the most lethal and the most high-tech weapons so far. But for the last 17 long months, the decision on when to pull the trigger was always made by a human. And now, for the very first time, Russia claims to have used a fully automated air defense system powered by AI to have shot down a Ukrainian aircraft. According to the Russian state media, on the 24th of May, Russia deployed its S-350 Vityaz air defense system that had been tweaked to be directed by an artificial intelligence code to autonomously detect, track, and destroy Ukrainian air targets. And all this without any human involvement and direction. Russia reportedly wants to use this to bring down Ukrainian drones that have given Kiev a certain edge on the battlefield. Vityaz air defense system can be operated in both active and passive radar modes simultaneously. It can engage hostile aircraft, drones, ballistic, and even cruise missiles with an impressive range of 150 kilometers. The Vityaz missiles can bring down projectiles that travel at speeds of over 2 kilometers per second. Despite these impressive capabilities, what has really concerned a lot of military strategists is the fact that AI has now been allowed complete autonomy in deciding when to pull the trigger. But weapons powered by AI aren't exactly new. Last October, Israel had made headlines for installing an AI-powered gun at the Al Arub Palestinian refugee camp. South Korea is said to have set up a similar contraption along its border with North Korea, while the United States had used AI-powered guns during its 2-decade-long wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And now with the use of AI-powered weapons in the Russia-Ukraine war, no one can be certain on how many lives will be lost because of a piece of software that is deciding to now pull the trigger. But what is certain though is that defense manufacturers are expecting some pretty big-ticket orders worth billions of dollars in the next few months. The CEO of Rheinmetall, a German defense manufacturer, was candid enough to admit this.
We expect many orders to be placed in the coming weeks and months. Many billions of euros to be placed also for Rheinmetall. We are on the right track. We are producing artillery shells almost at full capacity because the demand is there. The international demand is very high, and as said before, we will boost our production from 450,000 to 600,000 rounds next year. We expect to work at full capacity next year.
So the defense manufacturers who are working at full capacity this year also expect to work at full capacity next year. This must give you an indication of how long the Ukrainian counteroffensive is likely to drag on for. While defense manufacturers strike deals in air-conditioned offices, the soldiers on the battlefield are fighting a desperate war. As this body cam footage of a Ukrainian soldier will show you, on the battlefield, death lurks at every corner.
Wow. Artificial intelligence, machines making the decision on when to launch a missile. Pull the trigger, not a human being, for the first time ever in history. How dangerous is that? What if the machine goes berserk? What if there's a virus? What if the enemy gets a hold of, what if, they insert a virus or malware into the system? What could go wrong? Stop worrying, Rick. It's strange how in Western society we've become so desensitized to all of this that we're not even afraid, I don't think, anymore of nuclear war. People just seem to think it's something that we can do, get away with. But we should be very, very afraid of it. And I think this artificial intelligence technology, there's maybe some good that will come out of it, but man, if it gets away from us, we could be in a lot of trouble. We've seen in the past, right, with false alarms. It was human intervention, a human decision that saved humanity, where a human being realized that no, probably not a good idea to launch the nukes because it doesn't make any sense. And then it turns out to be a false alarm. But what if it is artificial intelligence? What if it is? We've seen computer systems go berserk and warning systems in the past. This has actually happened where they saw there were reflections off clouds that sensors took to be a missile launch, but it was a human being who delayed things and prevented us from blowing each other up. But if there hadn't been a human being there, if that had been an artificial intelligence system and it was getting garbage information in, and it makes a garbage decision going out to launch the nukes when there was no threat, then the other side launches too, and we are all toast. I don't mean to scare you, but maybe that should be incentive enough at this point for all of us to put pressure on government to find a way forward in peace and find strength through peace, not peace through strength. I think we have to. We're at that point. So Anheuser-Busch still dealing with the fallout from that disastrous promotional campaign with Dylan Mulvaney. The CEO of Bud Light issued a statement. He says, "We hear you." After losing their number one selling spot in America, but they have still not backed it off to the point where they're sort of they're still kind of in there with the whole pride movement thing. They're not saying that they made a mistake. They're saying it's for everyone. Well, let's just take a look at the statement. I don't think they know what to do even now. So here's the newest statement from Anheuser-Busch. We recognize that over the last 2 months, the discussion surrounding our company and Bud Light has moved away from beer. And this has impacted our consumers, our business partners, and our employees. We are a beer company, and beer is for everyone. Today, we are announcing 3 important actions as we continue to move our business forward. First, we are investing to protect the jobs of our frontline employees. Second, we are providing financial assistance to our independent wholesalers to help them support their employees. And third, to all our valued consumers, we hear you. Our summer advertising launches next week, and you can look forward to Bud Light reinforcing what you've always loved about our brand, that it's easy to drink and easy to enjoy. As we move forward, we will focus on what we do best, brewing great beer and earning our place in moments that matter to you. Here's to a future with more cheers. But beyond that, it isn't really clear where they stand on the issue. They took a stand when they engaged in that marketing campaign with Dylan Mulvaney, and it cost them. But now they're, addressing it, but not really addressing it. I don't know at this point how you deal with the damage, because it's a political, a social hot potato. And other companies, in spite of what happened to Bud Light, as I said, I do receive a trade publication for the advertising and marketing industry. And there was an article in there just in the last week or so about how a lot of corporations are backing away from some of these marketing tactics where they would embrace social issues or social engineering issues like Pride Month or Pride Season. But others are not. And like the federal governments, Canada and the US, they're often replacing their own flags. They're replacing Canadian and American flags with pride flags outside their office buildings, their factories, just like the governments in many cases are replacing national flags with pride flags. We saw the Canadian Prime Minister do that outside his office. We've seen it outside a variety of government buildings. While some municipalities are saying no to that, it's become, again, a political hot potato, the source of real division. But here in Canada, even after what happened with Anheuser-Busch, this is Molson Breweries in Canada. And what are they doing? Flying the pride flag. They've replaced the Canadian flag, with the pride flag outside their facility. It's private property. It's their flagpole. They can fly whatever they want on it. But some people would say it would be more appropriate, if anything, to fly it beside the Canadian flag or below the Canadian flag. But when you replace a country's flag, that is like an indication of capture. When you take over a country, you capture their flag and you take it down and you put yours up. This is a political movement. And because it's a political movement, it seems very inappropriate to me to be flying the flag in replacement, to replace a country's flag if you want to draw attention to or recognize a charity, a community group, some social initiative that isn't so much political but is community based without being highly political, then you fly it alongside or you recognize that organization in another way. But I don't think it's appropriate to, this is my opinion, to replace a country's flag with a flag that is steeped in politics, especially, when you consider that the sovereignty of a country is based in politics. The country is run by politicians and bureaucrats. It is entirely political. Everything about government is political. And so to replace the national flag, which is supposed to be in many respects, it's supposed to represent all people and all the people from the country who are, who have a variety of political views. You're now saying that this political organization takes precedent, and bam, right there on top. It really makes me uncomfortable. And that's why you're seeing, I think, on the other side at these demonstrations now, children and others stomping on pride flags at demonstrations. They throw them down onto the streets now and they stomp on them. And that, again, is something that you would do if there was some sort of an overthrow of government or a war going on, or an anti-war demonstration or some other huge political protest, which is exactly what these demonstrations are. And so you would see you've seen the American flag at protests burned and stomped on the ground. You've seen the same thing in other countries, right? And yet it's a pride flag. Would people burn and stomp on a United Way flag or a flag for cancer research or some other community group? No, you don't see that happening because those groups are not that politicized. There's a political element to everything, but not to the degree that we see here with the pride flag, which has become, in many respects, a flag that is very much in the same vein as, say, flying a Black Lives Matter flag, which is a political group. It's a political organization. And it would be inappropriate, I think, to take down a Canadian or an American flag or the flag of any other country, frankly, and run the Black Lives Matter flag up the flagpole to replace it. That signals political capture, social capture, capture of sovereignty even. Concerns me deeply. I think it should concern everyone, honestly. And here's just another quick look at some of what's been going on with the Dylan Mulvaney fallout. There's Dylan Mulvaney sipping a Bud Light. And there's a Bud Light sign with a big circle and a lion through it. And all this tied in to the controversy surrounding drag queen story times and all the demonstrations that we're seeing. It's gotten to the point now where it's daily demonstrations. Just doesn't end. The hits keep on coming. So Barack Obama was interviewed. This was on a CNN audio podcast that was hosted by David Axelrod, who was Obama's former senior White House advisor. And in this interview, and I'm going to bring this up, there's an article about it here in the Gateway Pundit. Not really being reported anywhere else that I've seen. But it's interesting because he's calling here, Obama proposes digital fingerprints. He wants the implementation of digital fingerprints online to assist government, the regime, if you will, in regulating viewpoints that are not aligned with their agenda. So this proposition was made during this interview with Axelrod. And during the interview, Axelrod brought up misinformation, disinformation, deep fakes, which we've talked about here extensively. And he asked specifically about these deep fakes that have been directed at Obama himself. And then Obama responded by saying, as I've told people, because I was the first digital president when I left office, I was probably the most recorded, filmed, photographed human in history, which is kind of a weird thing. So Obama claimed that this collection had provided a rich resource of raw material for the creation of manipulated content. He said, went on and said that usually all the deepfakes start with like some version of Obama doing something, dancing, saying dirty limericks or whatever, right? That technology's here now. So Obama went on and expressed concern about this coming up election cycle. And he says if government doesn't control what they call misinformation or opinions that oppose them, it could impact the election results. And he says, recall current Secretary of State Tony Blinken was reportedly behind the effort to pull together a list of government intel leaders to claim that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation to help Biden with his election. That's what the article is saying here. That's not Obama saying it, just to clarify. And in addition, it says here, Obama spread the false claim that then candidate Donald Trump conspired with Russia to secure his victory in 2016. That is true. That's been debunked. It's obviously, it was all part of the big scam, the hoax, whatever. Obama advocated for the development of watermarking or digital fingerprint technology to tell apart true news from false news. Strange. I don't know exactly what he means by that. So if you publish something, you need to what? Give up your fingerprint? He says here, Obama goes on and says, and the need for us, for the general public, I think, to be more discriminating consumers of news and information, the need for us to, over time, develop technologies to create watermarks or digital fingerprints so we know what is true and what is not true. There's a whole bunch of work that's going to have to be done there. But in the short term, it's really going to be up to the American people to kind of say, and then he goes on and says, obviously, we saw that during the vaccination stuff, so I am concerned about it. And he says, and I think the best we're going to be able to do is to constantly remind people that this is out there. Yes, that's true. And I do warn you guys, and I showed you those ads that were done in deepfake style using news anchors and Elon Musk to mislead people and scam people to try to get you to invest in this fake cryptocurrency that they're making it look like Elon Musk is backing this new cryptocurrency, but it's obviously completely fake. But it's fairly well, probably done well enough that they will have, I'm sure they've been, skimming money and scamming money off a lot of unsuspecting or people who are not tech savvy enough or media savvy enough to know what they're running into. So Obama said that he thinks most people are now aware that not everything that pops up on your phone is true, but cautioned misinformation can be used to discourage people from voting by characterizing the system as rigged and corrupt. That's true, but they use polling to kind of discourage or encourage people too. So they, Obama and the Democrats and the people on the left, the neoliberals, people on all sides of this political spectrum, really, they're all engaging in information warfare. They're all fighting for your mind. There is a war on for your mind. Our minds, our collective minds, our individual minds, they're all fighting for power. And they're going to manipulate you in any way they possibly can. And that's why we're here, to try to provide some balance to that, some perspective. And we are always, 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 always trying to get you closer to the truth. That is truly our objective here on the Maverick News Channel. We're not just, we'll call it out and I do offer up my opinions, but we're really not here to cheerlead for any one particular candidate or side. We're here to get you as close to the truth as we possibly can. And that's the truth.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
So just to put a little perspective on that Anheuser-Busch story too, it's my understanding that they've now lost something like $34 billion as a result of the fallout from the Dylan Mulvaney fiasco. Wow. And then there have been a variety of polls. Just to go back to politics for a moment. You know, a lot of candidates on the Republican side running against Trump. Not as many running on the Democratic side, on the Democrat side. But here's another poll showing that RFK Jr., this being reported by The Hill, that he holds 15% support in a Democratic primary poll. So it says that he has double-digit approval and favorability in his rating. And this is a new Harvard Caps Harris poll. And in this poll, it says Kennedy has 15%, 21% saying they have a favorable view of him, 15% saying that they would support him. And so he's on the rise. He's an environmental lawyer, as I think many of you already know. And mainstream media is saying his bid is a long shot. And this poll says that Biden still dominates the field and has 62% support. I know that other polls have not been as favorable for Biden. And other polls do have RFK Jr. polling even higher than the 15%. Hard to say. These polls depends on how they ask the questions, who they ask the questions of, how large the sample size is, how accurate it is. And sometimes I think these polls are fabrications. They're cooked in order to get a specific result and to do exactly what Obama just said, that artificial intelligence and these deep fakes and so on are often meant to do, which is to suppress voter turnout or to manipulate public opinion in a way to get people to act in a particular way, to either have more people vote or fewer people vote, and certainly to vote in favor of whatever it is you want them to vote in favor of. But I think the polls are cooked in just that way because they're often used as a tool to do exactly that, to screw with people's minds. You know, everybody likes a winner. Everybody likes to be on the winning side. Not everybody, but a lot of people do. It's a huge factor. When you see a candidate who has momentum, public opinion starts to move even more in that direction. And pretty soon you can have a runaway train just because people jump on the bandwagon. They want to be on the winning side. A lot of people say, I don't want to throw my vote away, and they'll vote for just whoever they think has the momentum to win. It's a very strange phenomenon. So this poll was conducted between June 14th and 15th. They had 2,090 respondents surveyed. And they're still saying that Biden has 62% support. He's hardly been campaigning. He's been falling down, going boom, saying, God bless the Queen, man. And if that's all you have to do to get 62% support, I don't know. Seems like a pretty easy gig. Seems like just about anybody could do that. Isn't it strange how the guy campaigns from his basement? And now he's running for re-election, and he can fall down multiple times, fall up the stairs, fall down the stairs, limp around, trip over sandbags, fall flat on his face, stand up at the podium, give speeches that make no sense whatsoever, and then make reference to a queen who has been dead for months, and ignore the fact that the new king is celebrating a birthday. And he still gets 62% support. Pretty weird. Democrats are hardly democratic. Their system is set up in a very fascistic way. They've acknowledged it. I mean, it's not a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's just reality over there. It's not really a very democratic process. The Democrat Party, they kind of pick who they want to be their nominee, who it is that they want to run. The grassroots, yeah, they have these primaries and things, but at the end of the day, the whole system is set up so that the elites running the party, they actually get to choose. So it's a very difficult path forward for RFK Jr. That's why Biden has 62% support. That's the truth. But if he continues to fall down and go boom, if he self-destructs, if he gets to the point where he literally can't put two words together anymore, then maybe then RFK Jr. might have a path forward to the nomination. But short of that, I wouldn't hold out a lot of hope because their system is very fascistic. And that's why a lot of people were laughing when that graphic came up on the screen on Fox News that called Biden a wannabe dictator. It was up for something like 27 seconds this past week, then was taken down. And there have been some kind of conflicting reports about what happened to the guy in Master Control who put that graphic up on the screen. Some say he was fired. Some say he resigned. Either way, Tucker Carlson made hay with it during his podcast, which was another way of giving the middle finger to his former network, which canned him and he's done this via Twitter, of course, where he's getting millions and tens of millions of views. Kind of stating the obvious. Here he is again.
On Tuesday afternoon, the Biden administration had Donald Trump arrested. It was a pretty big news story. You may have seen it. Just before 9 p.m. that night, as part of its coverage, Fox News ran two live video feeds next to one another. On the right, Donald Trump addressed his supporters in New Jersey. On the left, Joe Biden spoke at an event for the Secretary General of NATO in Washington. Beneath those videos at the bottom of the screen, Fox's banner read this way, quote, "Wannabe dictator speaks at the White House after having his political rival arrested." Those words are up for less than 30 seconds, but the effect was immediate. Inside Fox, the women who run the network panicked. First, they scolded the producer who put the banner on the screen. Less than 24 hours after that, he resigned. He'd been at Fox for more than a decade. He was considered one of the most capable people in the building. He offered to stay for the customary 2 weeks, but Fox told him to clear out his desk and leave immediately. Then the company issued a public apology for the 27-second-long wannabe dictator line. Quote, "The chyron was taken down immediately," Fox's PR department said, and then added ominously it was, quote, "addressed." That was all true, but it was not enough to save Fox News from the ensuing scandal. For a time in the rest of the media, Fox's assessment of Donald Trump's arrest seemed to overshadow Trump's arrest itself. Suggesting that Biden is a dictator, declared the Washington Post, quote, "crossed the line." Alexander Vindman agreed strongly. Vindman is the perennial MSNBC guest and full-time Ukraine promoter you may remember from Russiagate. On Twitter, he demanded that the Pentagon pull Fox News from all military bases. It is, quote, absolutely unacceptable for American Forces Network to carry programming that directly, spuriously attacks the commander-in-chief of American Armed Forces, Vindman wrote. In other words, Joe Biden must ban all criticism of himself because that's what non-dictators do. John Cusack went further still. For the crime of calling Biden a dictator, Fox should be shut down, wrote the 80s era movie star. Quote, the government has to take away their broadcasting license, and so on. It was all over the internet. Democrats were very, very angry. But why were they angry? If the banner on Fox was false, why the hysteria? Lies don't seem to bother anyone anymore. If some cable news producer had called Joe Biden a genius or accused him of being secretly Sudanese, would anyone be yelling about it? Would Fox News have apologized for it? Probably not. But calling Joe Biden a wannabe dictator, that stung. So you've got to wonder, if you're being honest with yourself, is Joe Biden a wannabe dictator? That question came up yesterday at the White House briefing. Here's how it went.
Last night, Fox News ran a chyron that referred to the president as a wannabe dictator, and I'm wondering if the White House has any.
Probably 87 million things that I can say about this that was wrong about what we saw last night, but I don't think I'm going to get into it.
There's no comment the White House has on.
I think I just commented.
Oh, no comment necessary. Of course, Joe Biden's not a wannabe dictator. Just because he's trying to put the other candidate in prison for the rest of his life for a crime he himself committed doesn't mean he has a totalitarian impulse. Come on, that's absurd. It takes a lot more than jailing your political rivals to earn the title wannabe dictator. That's the consensus in Washington tonight. And in some ways, for once, the consensus may be right. It is not a small thing to be a wannabe dictator. It's quite a process. There are a lot of steps. First off, there is the money. The one thing that all dictators have in common is they enrich themselves and their families, their tribe, even as the countries they govern grow steadily poorer and more desperate. They take kickbacks from businesses and from other dictators. They use the official functions of their government to funnel cash to themselves. They don't bother to hide the fruits of this. They live in garish mansions with big lawns, far from the teeming cities, even as their own citizens languish in growing poverty, in some cases, literally living in tents on the street. So they don't really hide it. It's all pretty blatant. And ordinary people resent it. Of course they do. And wannabe dictators know they resent it, but they don't care. There's nothing the population can do about it in a dictatorship. It's no longer possible to fight injustice in a system like that. People can't gather in large numbers to protest the rule of the dictator. If they try that, they'll be arrested by his state security services, even years after the fact. A visit from men in body armor at the breakfast table. That happens. And if citizens persist in believing they can gather in groups to protest, they may be shot to death, a bullet to the throat. And then, just to make the humiliation complete, to make the lesson gin clear to everyone else watching, their relatives can be arrested for daring to complain that their children were killed for complaining. That actually happens in some places. Ask Ashley Babbitt's mother. Here she is in handcuffs.
You murdered her inside the Capitol, now you're going to arrest her?
101, I would transport response.
So don't be like Ashley Babbitt's mother, much less like poor Ashley Babbitt. She's dead now. That's the message a wannabe dictator would send. And by the way, it's not just public protest that would be banned in a dictatorship. You wouldn't be allowed to complain from your own home. Unauthorized opinions expressed on the internet would be censored. Go too far, press too deep, tell too much truth, and they'll just erase your opinions. They have no choice, really. It's a matter, as they say, of trust and safety. You must trust the leader, or else you will jeopardize his safety.
Well, if you want to see the whole thing, just find Tucker on Twitter. Pretty powerful stuff, stating the obvious. What do you think? Is Joe Biden a wannabe dictator? He's not even competent enough to be a dictator at this point. He's just a wannabe dictator, apparently. Spends too much time falling down, go boom. Yeah. So what do you think, guys? Tell me in the comments here. Is Joe Biden a wannabe dictator? Let's get some of these comments up on the screen tonight. Come on, man. What do you think? Is Joe Biden a wannabe dictator? Now, there's a poll we should run. Is Joe Biden a wannabe dictator? I'll tell you what, I'll set up a poll and we'll get it up on the Maverick website for tomorrow. Is Joe Biden a wannabe dictator? Yes or no? Vote often, vote now, vote tomorrow, vote this evening, vote in the comments section right now. Share your thoughts. Here's Goodfellow who says nobody in this world is taking Biden seriously. I don't know. What does that mean? Like, do people take him seriously? I think people take his position seriously, and I think people are worried because he's clearly not all there. Anasty says, yup, he's a wannabe dictator. And Gina says, yes, he is, Rick. And Alicia says, Obama and Clinton Biden just want an ice cream. Yeah, that's true. And Isabel says he's a dick, not sure he's a dictator. Yeah. And when I look back at different video clips of Biden through the years, he really has been a world-class dick. He is a jerk. Look at the way he's spoken to people over the years. The arrogance, the flow of testosterone that finds its way out through his vocal cords. I always found him to be very abrasive, arrogant, condescending. I don't know how he ever found his way into the White House, why people supported him. I just never understood. It has to be money, the way he manipulated the system in order to garner the kind of support that he's had and to get propelled to that position. But as a result, I think you also end up being very controlled. So as much as he looks like he's in the position of power, I don't think so. But man, what a jerk he has been over the years. And Tommy Temper says Biden is incapable of making real decisions. Yeah. Rhea Timmerman says yes, wannabe dictator. Goodfella says he doesn't even know what dictatorship is. I don't think he knows whether he's coming or going. I don't know if he even knows he's president half the time. Steve Harvey says dictaphone. That's a pretty good one, and maybe the most accurate statement so far. David says Biden is a puppet, doesn't have a clue. Bon Pearl says maybe there will be a fight over who is the biggest dictator. LOL. Real Canadian Rage YT says he's racist. Yeah, well, we've seen comments like that over the years from Biden, which certainly have been racist, no doubt about it. Anasty says he's evil ASF. Gina says he's a monster. Mountain Woman says employees for the WEF, and remember, they killed to put the WEF together in the 70s. Goodfella says, if you are not jappy with Biden, we can send you Putin. I guess Goodfella must be from Russia. Bon Pearl says, you can tell he is lying when he is giving a speech. When he's saying anything that actually makes sense or isn't busy sniffing some young child's hair. Joe Brown Smith says Joe Biden is a Class A jerk. Said his wife from her then husband. Rosanna says, right, Rick, Biden is arrogant, condescending, and not really all that bright. Very true. So now you actually have a guy who's never been very bright who is clearly going senile. It's a bad combination, a dangerous combination. It's putting the entire world at risk, honestly. All of humanity. And that is the truth. He should not be in that position. Should not be. Von Pearl says he is just sad to watch. Yeah. And Helmet says, for certain, he is just a fake actor. We know he is the third one alive. Well, we've seen some pretty strange videos of him, haven't we? And strange speech patterns. I can't say for certain one way or the other on that, but there does seem to be some inconsistency in his presentations, his persona, even sometimes his appearance a little bit. I speculate that it's sometimes a combination of makeup and maybe even stimulants. Either they jack him full of a lot of caffeine, or who knows, man, maybe they pop him full of Roger Ramjet pep pills, where they put him on stage to speak sometimes, where he actually starts to have enough energy to get through a speech, but he can't, even then he just gets into some babbledy gook in the middle of all of his speeches. He just can't get through something without screwing things up. Just a brief comment. Back to that horrific crash out in Manitoba on the Trans-Canada Highway that we told you about yesterday. 15 people killed when a semi-truck and a bus collided. 10 people sent to hospital, 15 others, seniors, killed in that accident. And now police saying that the driver of the semi-truck had the right of way. The investigation, I don't think, is completed yet, but they've already come up with that determination. And it doesn't make it any easier for the families or the communities affected by this. And by the community, I think what you're really looking at is much of the country, much of Canada, directly impacted by this story. I think that bus was on its way to a casino, a tour bus. So we'll be hearing more about that in the days ahead. But worth a mention as we make our way through the daily news. Also, we told you about that cyber attack, that global cyber attack this week, and more media reports coming out about that now. And we've seen over the last 24 hours on the Canadian front, the Toronto Dominion Bank had trouble processing direct deposits for many people who have direct deposit payroll. People couldn't get their money. Now, I've received some messages from people saying it was other banks were affected by this too, but I have not been able to confirm that at this point. TD Bank is saying that they have now restored their system, that the problems have been resolved. They have issued an apology, and they're promising refunds for NSF check fees after their day-long outage of service for direct deposit. And they said it was a batch processing issue, saying that computers were failing to process large volumes of data. They're saying it was a batch processing issue that affected multiple systems. What exactly the root cause of that might have been, I'm not sure. If you were affected by this, you can contact your local branch or contact the bank directly with their toll-free number, which you can look up online quite easily, but it is 1-866-222-3456. And that'll get you into touch with somebody over there at the TD call-in center, and they can assist you. And on the U.S. side, we've seen this week that government agencies have been dealing with a global cyber attack, but on the U.S. side, a number of government agencies, including the Energy Department, were targeted in this attack. Mainstream media, more of them beginning to pick up on this story. It was originally CNN that broke the story. And so as a result, I was somewhat skeptical of some of the information in there because I know that a lot of their coverage is tainted by government influence. But it is a real thing, apparently. Here's Forbes reporting on it tonight, picking up on the coverage. All the major networks now grabbing it. Some mention in independent media. They're saying, oh, that's the wrong one. Sorry, here we go. We want to bring up this. So here's the Forbes article. It says a global cyber attack targeting a widely used file transfer service has hit multiple U.S. government agencies. And they're blaming a Russian-speaking criminal group. The Department of Energy was among the impacted agencies. That coming directly from a spokesperson at the Department of Energy, who has said that records from 2 DOE entities were compromised as part of a wider attack on MoveIt file sharing software. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency hasn't named any other targeted government agencies, but a senior CISA official has issued a statement to the media saying a small number were victims, and the list doesn't appear to include the intelligence community or military. So far, the government has not received any extortion demands or observed any data leaks. But again, I think that when you're dealing with something like this, the information we're receiving has been heavily filtered and heavily managed. What the full extent of this is, I don't think we know. But of course, the administration, the government, these government agencies, they're blaming these cyber attacks on Russian government-backed groups or lone Russian actors. And that is what we've been seeing and hearing for many years. And we've seen, I think there's probably some truth to these claims that foreign governments like Russia, China, could be other countries as well. Who the heck knows sometimes? Sometimes it's made to look like it's coming from one country when in fact it might be another one who's very good at what they do, and they make it look like it's another country initiating or perpetrating these acts. And whether any of this had anything to do with the TD situation, I do not know. No reference made to it by TD, though. You would almost think that they would want to blame it on something like that so they wouldn't have to accept full responsibility. On the other hand, if they acknowledge that their financial computer system could or was compromised in any way by an external force, some sort of cyber attack like that, it would undermine to some degree public confidence in their bank. And confidence when it comes to a bank is everything, just as it is with government, but more so with a bank. You want to make sure that your money is secure, not just your money, but your personal information as well. And with the government, I want to know that the systems are secure because these are the guys who, again, have all the weapons. And soon, artificial intelligence. Well, they have the artificial intelligence now. Are they employing it? Probably. Oh, I think they probably are. To what degree, I don't know. But we're seeing, for the first time, use of AI on a battlefield by Russia. We're seeing huge advancements in AI on the consumer front, and you know that when they allow the consumer, the average citizen, to have access to technology at a certain level, even if it was, the early days of the internet. The internet had been around for a long time. The government, it was a military secret for a long time before they ever let the public have access to it. They were worried about it. They knew it was going to change society dramatically. And as a result, they knew it was going to have political impacts, security impacts. It was going to change the way we communicate, the way we work. And they didn't let the public have it for quite some time. It was a military secret. So if we have AI, even at this elementary level that we have it now, or this rudimentary level, primary level, imagine what the government and the military have to work with already. I can't imagine. I can tell you this, though, it scares the living daylights out of me. I think we all need to be worried about it. Hug your families. Tell your loved ones you love them. Make the most of every day. Cherish it. Society is changing at a pace that we've never seen before. Is Joe Biden a wannabe dictator? Well, he's heading up a fascistic government, in my view, a corporatocracy, where we have a combination of corporations and government working hand in hand, public-private partnerships, employing new technologies that have never been unleashed on mankind before, and we do not know where they are going to take us. I'm optimistic, but I'm also petrified. Tonight, I showed you a president who falls down all the time, who can't string coherent thoughts together when he gets up to speak in front of people, who forgets that the Queen is dead. It says, "Long live the Queen." Man, the Queen is not around to live anymore, Joe. She's dead. This is the guy who's at the helm on this 17th day of June, 2023, where we're seeing artificial intelligence change the very fabric of our society, as we see conflict spiral out of control, while firefighters wrestle to put out wildfires that send massive plumes of smoke wafting over U.S. cities from Canadian places of origination. Natural, yeah, but still concerning. Some of them set by arsonists, probably, under investigation. Was it the government itself? Probably not. Political activists? Possibly. What's the truth? We don't know yet. We're waiting to find out. And that's the truth. But I hope the fires don't erupt into something bigger. And I mean that metaphorically. I hope the political fires don't get to a point where humanity itself is in jeopardy. God help us all. Folks, that's it for tonight, 8:37 p.m. I'm going to wrap it up. Again, give your loved ones a hug tonight. There's still a little bit of sunlight left here where I'm at. I hope there's a little bit of sunlight left where you are too. Just enough to maybe go out and enjoy what's left of the day and then embrace the evening. Make the most of it. Seize the day. Until tomorrow, I'm Rick Walker. Catch you on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.